Remember those days when we had to have altar calls? In the old days, 60s and 70s, we used to have altar calls like this. Praise the Lord, you've just heard the sermon. We're now coming to the close of our service today. Let me just ask everybody in the audience to stand, please. Everybody stand. No, not now, sir. No. This is an illustration. Everybody in the audience to stand. I knew somebody would stand. I'm a very persuasive guy. Okay, let me now ask all the Christians to sit. So the only people standing are the sinners now. You never know what could happen to you. You might leave today and a bus could hit you. Are you ready to meet Jesus? Now, it's a fair question, but it's not the only question in the Bible. Another question might be, let's everybody stand. All those who know Jesus, sit down. If you're still standing, sit down now, but we want to tell you something. The people who sat before you have a quality of life we would love to share. You know what I mean? That's a different kind of take. We are in a cloud of witnesses where God isn't asking us to stand up or to shed weight out of sheer embarrassment or guilt trips, but because you are in a race where you are surrounded with witnesses. And because the witnesses of the past and the present are looking on and saying, go girl, go girl, go girl, I want you to run. But also because there are some obstacles saying, stop girl, stop. You really need to look at who you are. You really need to have a perspective of where you're coming from and where you're going. So sometimes individuals need to shed weight. What's the stuff which you don't need? Sometimes churches need to shed weight. That's what an annual review should be about. Not just about doing more, but how do we do what we're doing better? How do we do less? How do we ensure that what God is calling us to as City Chapel keeps us on the cutting edge? Do we need what we got to go where we're going? Is the question of every happy birthday Christian and movement. And we are called to run the race with patience. I've always struggled with that concept. It's a very strange concept. You can say, why don't you sit with patience? That makes sense, doesn't it? Or lie down with patience, or walk with patience even, or even trot with patience. But run with patience it reminds me a little bit of the bogeyman dream. You ever had the bogeyman dream? Where you're kind of running, and the bogeyman is coming, and you can't get anywhere, and you're really running, and the bogeyman is coming, and it's kind of a tension. Well, maybe there's a bit of that in it. But this is about urgent patience. This is about deliberate movement with caution. This is about taking stock and being aware whilst pushing into the future. This is about a quality of determination which says, I am in a race, I am on a journey, I won't let anybody or anything stop me, and while I am moving, I am conscious of what is happening around and what is happening within. And you know how it is? Sometimes if you are conscious like that, you have to kind of change course a little bit. Used to play bulldog at school? No. Well, the idea was you're in one end of the gym, and you need to get to the other end, and there is opposition in the middle. So some folks are going to try and stop you reaching the other end. But if you're playing bulldog, you can't just go boom. You have to watch. Where's the opposition coming from? Change course, and then dash, and then stop, and then move around, and you're gone again. I used to be very good at bulldog. The movement we're in, the race we're in, is like a game of bulldog. Yes, there are those edging us on, telling us to go, but there are also those who want to stop you. They want to stop you at work. They want to stop you in your movement. They want to stop you even in church sometimes. And running this race with patience means you have a steely-eyed endurance, to quote Graham Kendrick, a sense of determination to fight and win, but you're not just blazing along, you're not just blazing a trail, you are running with a sense of perspective, you are running with a sense of determination. You may have to dilate your speed and shift your course a little, but you know where you're heading, and nothing and no one is going to stop you. Don't let anybody stop your dream, City Chapel. If you got a dream to serve Jesus and to serve your community, don't let your internal program stop you. Don't let opposition from the community stop you. Don't let faithless people stop you. Don't let faith-filled people stop you. Have a sense of being in a crowd of witnesses and running a race with patience. Because sometimes that race does mean you have to kind of break through the pain barrier. That's determination. That's kind of perseverance. Actually, when I grew up a little, I did used to go jogging, because then I think I discovered what it was about. This was probably when I was in my mid-30s or something like that. I used to run an evening Bible school. We had about 100 students. I had about 8 staff. I was a full-time worker with the probation service, and I had a young family of 4 kids. No, it was 2. It was 2. It felt like 4, but it was, there was 2. It comes back to me now, there were 2 of them. And so, there's sometimes highly pressurized situation. And I remember occasionally, 2 or 3 evenings a week, I would leave work, get to the Bible school, straight from the Bible school to my home. This may be 9 o'clock, and I'd absolutely feel drained. Sometimes I wouldn't even talk to anybody. Put on my tracksuit, put on my trainers, gone. But it was an interesting thing, because by then, I'd learned to work out where am I coming from, and sometimes I would actually drive my car to mark out how many miles a certain point was. So I'd mark out 2 miles, 3 miles. I think my top was something like 4.5 miles. So I would know today I'm going to do 2 or 3 or 4.5 miles, and different routes would give me a different length to get to where I was going. But here's the thing. Sometimes on a bad day when the biorhythms were weak, or I had the wrong kind of lunch, or I didn't sleep well the night before, what was an easy target, the 3-mile target, really felt like hard work. And that meant that the 4.5 just seemed impossible. And so you know what you had to do? You had to run through your pain threshold, didn't you? You reached the point where everything in your body says, stop now or you die, right here on the streets of Tottenham. But you have to say, no, I'm not going to die. This is what's called a pain threshold. So I'm going to keep running, I'm going to press through the pain threshold, and I'm going to get to the other side, because I am going to reach 4.5. Sometimes this race is like that, isn't it? You have to run through the pain threshold. Where are you? Where are you in your walk? Where are you in your ministry? Is God calling you to run the race with patience in such a way that you're having to run through a pain threshold? It's part of the sport. Here's the last thing. You look behind, you look around, and I'm going to finish, you look ahead. Looking unto Jesus, who is the author and finisher, the initiator and the perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despised, kind of just swept away the shame. He's seated at the right hand of God. I can't understand Christians who don't have a sense of future, who don't have a perspective about the future. People just kind of get up and, what are you doing today? I don't know, really. What are you doing tomorrow? I'm not so sure. What are you doing next week? I don't really know. So where are you going? I don't really know. So what's your vision? I don't really know. Are you alive? I don't really know. Are you dead? I think I probably am. So what kind of person are you? Where are you going? You've got no perspective on the future. You've got no targets you're aiming at. You've got no sense of a Jesus who has made the journey himself and who is at the finish line saying to you, run, girl, run, girl, run. You've got no sense of a resurrected Christ who is on the finishing line saying, come on, boy, come on, boy, come join me. You got no sense of a commissioning Savior who has the world in his hands and who has commissioned us to make disciples of all nations and has said, you are also a part of this. Here is your role. Let's go. If you haven't got that, you don't run well. You don't run far. You don't look around. You don't discipline. You don't look back and take stock. You don't know where you're going because you don't know where you're coming from, quite frankly. And the church can't do that. And an individual Christian can't do that. You have to run with a sense of perspective. It is only if you understand that Jesus himself calls us into the future, that you run through the pain threshold in the now because you've got a sense of a prize. I don't know if Mary is going to win X Factor. I don't know. I like Mary. I like Mary's voice. But you know what I like about all of the contestants? And in some ways, particularly Mary, because she's the old girl in the team. I like when I remember how she started. And I was watching her yesterday. She looks kind of slimmer. She looks more confident. And she's got poise and style. Why? What is it that has transformed Mary? Mary wants to win. Mary has cottoned on to the fact that if she keeps going, it is not impossible that she could come away with top prize and be a recording artist. So Mary's doing everything from physique to dress to voice to poise to say, you know, I'm really in this thing to win. And you've watched the transformation of her life as she runs the race on the big stage called X Factor. God calls all of us. Have that sense of perspective. If you want to win, you've got to behave like a winner. You've got to know the game, know where you are, know what's happening inside. And above all, you have to know that there is a Jesus who has called you, and that he who has called you is faithful to deliver. I'm going to try this water now.